Commencing transmission. Engaging scramblers. Proxy chain initialized. And now, live from his hidden base at the Earth's core, the future ruler of Earth, Doomcock.
Doomcock has seen Avengers Infinity War. Doomcock is not happy. This is going to be a difficult review to record. It's not as if Infinity War sucks. It does not. Indeed, I thought there was a lot about Infinity War that was excellent, particularly in the first half of the film. There was one aspect of the movie that I thought stunk to high Asgard, and I'll get to that. But overall, I thought the characters were handled very well, and everyone present was given their moment to shine. And in those moments, shine they do. Everyone steps up to the plate and knocks the ball deep into center field, if not out of the park. The way the writers handled the Guardians of the Galaxy, Iron Man, and Spider-Man in particular is worthy of applause and worth the price of admission alone. So, why is Doomcock unhappy then? That will be difficult for me to address in this video because the parts of the movie responsible for my deep dissatisfaction are the parts I can't really discuss right now because they're heavy spoilers. Normally, Doomcock presents analysis rather than simple reviews. I always say why I liked or hated something, breaking it down and providing concrete examples by way of evidence to support my conclusions. Well, that will come later. Perhaps later today or in the next few days. But since this review is spoiler-free, I can only present you with my broad reactions. The analysis must come later. So, the good news is Doomcock's fears were unwarranted. Going into this screening, I was worried that the sheer number of superheroes involved might overwhelm the screenwriters, resulting in characters having little to no character development as the events hurtled relentlessly toward the conclusion. I am pleased to say this was not at all the case. Every hero in this movie gets their moment to shine. The trademark Marvel humor, the character banter, the relationships, the camaraderie, it's all there in spades. In the first half of the movie, there are a lot of laughs. It's a delight seeing these characters again, and they're firing on all thrusters in these early scenes. The character moments feel genuine and unforced. Events in the film and the superheroes interacting with one another have a seamless flow to them. The film unfolds in a logical and pleasing manner. Infinity War is a hell of a lot of fun, until it isn't. I started to notice that I was not enjoying the movie as much as I had been when some terrible things occurred, and I realized that I wasn't feeling anything in regard to these terrible things. In other words, it's not a spoiler to say that something quite bad happens early on, and I felt it strongly, as I was supposed to. It signaled that Infinity War is going to be a serious movie. Serious things are going to go down. This is good. Too many movies fail to make the stakes feel genuine, and here they do, and yet, at a certain point, perhaps halfway through the movie, some even worse things happen, things that Doomcock should find personally quite upsetting, and Doomcock felt nothing. Why is that? I'll get deeper into the reason for this in the detailed analysis I'll reveal in the future, but for now, it's not a spoiler to say that at a certain point in the film, the premise starts to wear thin. The stakes are too high, there are too many bad things going on, and the film is moving so quickly, the viewer isn't given time to really process it all. The viewer isn't given the time to fully feel the impact of the things happening on screen. And when that happens, when the viewer can no longer have anything but an observational reaction to the events on the screen, then the viewer is emotionally checked out. And when that happens, in a real sense, the viewer stops being in the story and becomes an observer of the story. Impactful, significant things are happening so quickly, you don't have time to process them, and so you simply start noting them. Doomcock felt the first big moment of the film because it was paced properly and narrative fatigue had not yet set in. It remained the most emotionally resonant moment in the film for me, even though other characters I care more about are similarly impacted later in the film. That's not good. That means there's something wrong here. And I think that something is inherent in the concept of the film. The problem is not execution, it's the idea of Thanos in the first place. In the tradition of lousy Marvel movie villains, Thanos is a pretty lame villain, I'm sad to say. It's not that the writers skimp on his character development. Thanos may be the best developed character in Infinity War, hero or villain. A lot of time is given over to his relationships, his philosophy, and his motives. The problem with Thanos is he isn't really a villain at all. Unlike in the comics, Thanos is not a villain, nor is he insane exactly. He's a fanatic with a view of the universe that he makes a fairly cogent argument for. He sees things a certain way and he's acting from that viewpoint. He is not as cruel a character as I had surmised going in. He's not sadistic, and he's not acting from a sense of wanting to dominate the universe. In a misguided way, he wants to save the universe. And so, as a villain, Thanos is something of an epic fail. As powerful as he is, as much harm as he does in pursuing his goals, Thanos is presented as a nuanced character with depths of regret and emotion. Basically, there are things to like about Thanos. And so, once again, Marvel fails to deliver an epic grand villain in the Doctor Doom or Darth Vader mold. Whatever happened to supervillains who just want to rule the universe because they're dicks? Doomcock misses those guys. But I digress. The problem here is not merely Thanos as a villain, but Thanos as a narrative structure. You know going in that Thanos has the Infinity Gauntlet and is already the most powerful guy in the universe. So it's not a spoiler to say that maybe halfway through the movie, and you'll recognize the moment when you see it. Thanos demonstrates the reality-bending extent of his vast power in such a decisive and imaginative manner as to render all the subsequent battles rather silly. In other words, once you see him do this, you have to wonder, what's the point? Superheroes are punching Thanos, kicking him, dropping heavy things on him, webbing him, zapping him. So why doesn't Thanos just do that thing again and end every battle instantly? The only answer is because if he did, we wouldn't have a movie, and that's a terrible answer. It shows a lack of imagination, a lack of commitment to your premise. If you've established that Superman can fly, but he's walking from New Jersey to New York and being assaulted by monsters at every step, the fact that he doesn't fly to New York becomes a huge problem. Sure, it's more exciting to see Superman fight the monsters, except it really isn't, because we know Superman is invulnerable and super strong, and we know that he's not going to be killed by these monsters before he reaches the boss in New York. So it's just a lot of noise and filler before Superman meets the big boss villain and has the climactic fight in New York. That's an analogy for what's happening here. After this moment I spoke of, Thanos participates in battles. But why doesn't he just decisively end them? Is he overwhelmed? Can't concentrate? Perhaps. But that overwhelming of Thanos also extends to the audience in a seemingly endless string of action sequences that are very poorly executed, not in terms of spectacle. This movie is epic and spectacular, but in terms of the basics of good directing. Many, though not all, of the sequences here are lazy. The action is of that super quick cut variety that Doomcock despises. These sequences are not crafted as Spielberg crafted the legendary action sequences in Raiders of the Lost Ark. No, once again, we have a bunch of shit happening all at once with shaky moving camera and a cut every few seconds that leaves you confused as to what exactly is happening. You know shit is happening, endlessly, all around you, but the specifics of that battle are a blur because the director doesn't make the effort needed to clarify the spatial relationships and the sequence of events. Where everyone is relative to everyone else, what blows exactly are being landed where, it's a cheap form of filmmaking guaranteed to cover the director's ass that modern audiences accept but discerning audiences recognize as lazy. The Transformers school of throwing everything up on screen and letting God sort it out. Of the ending, I can only say that I didn't like it at all. In fact, the more I think about it, the more it angers and disappoints me. There is a lot more to say about this movie, but I can't go on without discussing massive spoilers, so I will put that off until I release my video analysis. So let me offer my summary here. When this movie works, as it frequently does, it is a joy to behold. We get to see our beloved familiar characters behaving in ways that are true to their natures. The writers nail their unique voices, and seeing this movie is like revisiting old friends. Great moments of genuine humor arising organically from the characters, none of whom get shortchanged, with the possible exception of Doctor Strange, who comes off as amazingly flat, in my opinion. In a movie positively brimming with peaks and valleys, looking like an EKG chart, Doctor Strange is a curious flat line. Every time we go to him, the film kind of lurches as it loses, I don't know how to put it, fun? Momentum? Doctor Strange is a non-charismatic stick in the mud who really doesn't help out a lot. Basically, and I swear this is true, his cloak displays more charisma than he does and steals the show in at least one scene. The Guardians of the Galaxy remain the best part of Infinity War, and Doomcock wishes they had just skipped all this other crap and showed us a movie with these guys. And that's a problem, isn't it? But that said, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Thor, Bruce Banner, all our other principals deliver the goods and they're a joy to watch. If this movie is worth seeing, it's because of the great scenes with these guys. Thanos is a huge problem because they impair his villainy by presenting him as a thoughtful anti-hero with a philosophical bent that could be seen as oddly philanthropic, if homicidal. In the comic version, Thanos was a maniac enthralled with death. In this movie, he's the most developed character, and there are traits to admire about him even as he strives to destroy the Marvel Universe. A little more joyful evil and a little less social proselytizing would have made Thanos the best villain in the MCU, but alas, that was not to be. The effects are excellent, but in battles we can't savor them because in near Transformer-level execution, the action sequences are messy and chaotic with quick cuts and lazy direction. I really went into this expecting to deliver a simple, positive review. That was my hope, in fact. Doomcock grows weary of negativity. He looks to great things like The Expanse, like Counterpart, but no. These things are found on television more and more often and less frequently in theaters. Doomcock was convinced the filmmakers would nail it in Infinity War. At worst, I thought the number of characters would overwhelm the writers and turn this into a straight action flick. Doomcock was wrong on that point. The film is much better and ultimately much worse than I could have imagined. I tell you these things merely so you can decide if you want to go see it, and I imagine most of you will. I hesitate to give it a star rating at this point without further explanation involving spoilers. No, I merely lay out the facts of my reaction and allow you to decide. Do the great character moments and undeniable fun of the first hour or 90 minutes compensate for what follows, particularly the parts I hated that I can't discuss? I can't say, but I can tell you that Doomcock is not happy after seeing this film, particularly for reasons I'll discuss at length in my spoiler-heavy review. But for what it's worth, all things considered, I'm sad to say Doomcock does not plan on seeing this again.